Okay, welcome everyone to this beautiful Saturday. This is Freedom from Nigeria, and this is where we present the facts, the actual facts about what's going on in Nigeria. And we educate not just the people back in Nigeria, but the world about what's actually happening. We know there's a lot of false narratives out there, and we work very hard to just stick to the facts. What is Freedom from Nigeria? We're just a group of Nigerian citizens and those that like or they are for freedom, they are for democracy, they are for equity and justice. And we have come together to be able to give the world what's going on. And so the format that we're going to use today is we are going to be talking about this subject of which we have found that there's a lot of false narratives about it, and you've seen it in the Nigerian papers, that says that the indigenous peoples of Nigeria are working to secede from the Union Nigeria. And so the topic of today is that the indigenous peoples of Nigeria are not seceding, but reclaiming their sovereignty. So we are going to go through some information that would help to establish for everyone exactly what's going on. And so I'm going to welcome Eugene, who's going to be part of a team that's talking about what's going on, and also Papa Faletti, who's also going to be part of the team. But as I said earlier, we are going to be looking to everyone to provide their thoughts about what's going on based on the information that we're providing. But again, we do want to keep this to be very fact-based so that we maintain the integrity of the information that we are providing. So I am going to go ahead and show my screen so everyone can follow along with the slides that we have for today. Okay. So here we go. Indigenous nations are not seceding from Nigeria. They are demanding the Nigerian referendum and stating the fact, which is that self-determination is a right. Okay, there are lots of things, as we said earlier, that's going on in Nigeria. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what the indigenous nations or regions, as they were called, obtained in 1960 at independence. What did our forefathers have in mind at independence? Then we'll talk about what the military did in 1966 and how did that change the tone or the intent of what 1960 agreement was. Then we are going to then talk about Military Decree 24, which is being called 1999 Constitution. But as we know, no referendum, no constitution. So we'll talk about what did that constitution do to those indigenous nations. And then we'll talk about, we'll go through some of the items in the exclusive 68 items list and what it has actually done to the indigenous nations. And then we'll talk a little bit about RUGA, because RUGA is an interesting one, because RUGA is what's sold to the people as pasteurization, even though the people ignore that. But what we have found is that even though RUGA was rejected, as we'll see in a video that we'll be watching on Bala Mohammed, the Bauchi governor, RUGA was actually about calling all Fulani around Africa as citizens of Nigeria and telling them to come on in. And then we'll go on and we'll talk about what is the plight of the indigenous nations today. Why are they crying out? What exactly can possibly be going on that they are crying out? Then we'll talk about the constitutional force majeure that was implemented by NINAS, which is the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, which is a body that is put together a strategic plan to help to free the nations. And then we'll talk about self-determination isn't right. It's not secession. What does the United Nations and what does the international law say about that? And so that's going to be how we're going to go about this. But in between, we will be talking about, we will be looking at videos, and we'll be looking at headlines as well. Welcome, Donald. And I am going to make you a co-host. Donald, if you take a look in your email, you should be able to see what we are talking about today. Stephen, I see you have raised your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I was going to ask this question, but you gave me an opportunity now when you mentioned the name Ninas. Would you be kind enough, please, to express to this viewing audience what is the relationship, strategic and organizational relationship between Ninas and Freedom from Nigeria? I've had a hard sell of Freedom from Nigeria to potential audiences because they don't understand. But I think the interest of the organization will be best served if it comes directly from you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let me address that, because as I said earlier, Freedom from Nigeria is a group of individuals. We hail from the Middle Belt to the South, and the intent of Freedom from Nigeria, as the name clearly indicates, is to work with all organizations from the Middle Belt to the South. We are consolidating our voices because it is our unity that is going to get us our freedom. Freedom from Nigeria has been supporting the NINA strategic plan, the constitutional force majeure plan, and that was put in place in 2020, and they supported that both financially and in getting the word out, via media. And that is the plan that we're asking everyone to come behind. It's not about restructuring. It's about reclaiming the sovereignty. We need to reclaim the sovereignty. So whether you want Oduduwa or Yoruba nation, whether you're looking for the Middle Belt nation or the Lower Niger nation or whatever nation that you're looking for, the NINA's plan actually is the vehicle that's going to get us there, because it is saying, one, that we want to end the 1999 Constitution because it is not a constitution, as it was not made by the people. It called on the government to cease the use of that constitution. And it also called for the cessation of all national elections until the government works with NINAS to see that we put a process in place that will lead to the Nigeria referendum. And then fifthly, what it did was to ask for a time-bound process. What that means is, let's put together a timeline. Let's have a transition government, as what happened in South Africa, so that we are able to have the indigenous nations go through their referendums and decide how they want to be governed. That's what self-determination is about. Okay, so Freedom from Nigeria, it supports the Yoruba Global Directorate, it supports NINAS, it supports Ilana Omodua, and it supports the concerned citizens of Atlanta and the various groups that are genuinely going for the freedom of our people. Because again, we need to pull together, we need to unite if we are going to win the battle that is ahead of us. Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's kind of go back and get started. I'm going to share my screen so that we can now talk about the first thing that we're going to talk about, as I said, is independence, 1960, a very, very joyous time. And so let's talk about a bit as to what independence brought to us. And Stephen, if you want to take that, that's fine. Or Donald, if you want to start with that, that's fine as well. So Any one of you. Welcome, Motupe. I am going to go ahead and make you a co-host. So any of our hosts can go ahead and get started. We're talking about what independence brought to Nigeria.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, viewing audience, and good afternoon to another fact-filled presentation of our Freedom from Nigeria. Just want to make a brief comment about the so-called 1960 independence and its implications on our fight today. What we called independence in 1960 was actually a systematic appeasement of the indigenous people of Nigeria to camouflage indirect rule by the British slave masters. And I use that term literally. Essentially, what the British did at independence was issued a piece of paper, one, to legitimize the illegitimate amalgamation treaty of 1914, which took independent nationalities and made them into a manageable municipal corporation called Nigeria. But of course, after the educated and literate Southern Nigerians started to protest the slavery, the captivity, the British found out a way to kind of sort of keep us quiet. So they dropped a lot of independence, which they tried to sell to us. We could see through it, but Southerners that we are, in general, being very peaceful and accommodating, we still accepted it. But of course, we knew from the beginning of time that independence was only on paper, but not in practice, because we saw since its inception that it was a system of rule by proxy, because it was a way to perpetuate the British colonization of the geopolitical area called Nigeria, which was an amalgamation of the Eastern region, the Western region, and the old Northern Protectorate. Since independence, nothing has changed other than the direct rule of the Fulani Caliphate, even though it was not recognized as a caliphate then. There were some uses of a political sleight of hand to put the government, to put governance in the hands of the Fulanis, which the British knew that they could manipulate. It wasn't by accident, it was by design. The British knew very well they could manipulate the Fulanis, and I hold no punches back in saying this. The British knew very well that they could manipulate the Fulanis. Therefore, they used sleight of hand to put the governance of the newly formed illegal country called Nigeria in their hands. That gave the Fulanis an opportunity to establish the caliphate agenda of making Nigeria the Fulani capital of the otherwise nomadic tribe that's never been indigenous to Nigeria. Since that time, it's been one sleight of hand, military rule, until such a time when the Fulani was grounded well enough to take the reins of power and the full picture of the Fulani agenda came into place. So independence was, in short, was only a paper presentation, a paper cover-up for the indirect rule by the British, which did nothing but to perpetuate and foster the fulfillment of the Fulani Caliphate agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is definitely the facts, but one of the things that we want to be clear to talk about today is the fact that 1960 independence agreement brought forth a very important thing to the indigenes. It brought forth what is called the regions. And the regions is definitely one of the things that is holding, that is supporting this call for reclaiming our sovereignty, because those regions, as we talked about previously, they were, and I'm going to share the screen again so that everyone can see it and we can talk about it. Those regions that were created was the Eastern region, the Western region, and the Northern region, which was a combination of the North and the Middle Belt. And then the Midwestern region was actually carved out in 1963. Now, the Middle Belt region was supposed to follow, but then things changed in 1966. Well, before then, there was a lot of things that was going on that led to 1966. But the important thing of independence is that it brought those regions or nations, and those were self-governing, they were autonomous, they had control of their assets, control of their borders. They had control of their progress. They had control of who they associated with. And in this case, they had agreed to associate with the Union of Nigeria as a federalized, a federal republic. And what that meant is that as a federal republic is a union of federations. And so 1960 brought something very important, federations. These unions were federations. And that's why we had the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They all had their own constitutions. The Eastern Constitution was different from the Western Constitution, was different from the Northern and from the Midwestern. And they agreed to a small center. And in that small center, they had a combined constitution. And that small center did not, it was only there to handle certain things. It did not take control of their assets, their borders, their progress. It did not take control of their constitution or their leaders, because they had their own leaders. We had Nnamdi Azikiwe, we had Awolowo, we had different leaders for those regions or federations. In other words, they had self-determination. I will stop here and let others pitch in, but that's one of the important things. That is the crux of what we're talking about, because there is a false narrative going on out there. And I'll let Modupe to talk a little bit about that, because there's a false narrative out there that the Nigerian government, and you have seen it in the papers, it talks about they're secessionists. It talks about that we're separatists. It uses all agitators. You know, none of that is the fact. The fact is that these nations were established, and what is happening now is a correction. What we're trying to do is a correction of that narrative, and to actually alert the world to what is actually going on. So, if you want to talk a little bit about that without going into a lot of specifics, and then we can talk about what happened after 1960, which kind of brings us on a long journey to where we are today.
Yes, hi, Jean. Hello, everyone. Yes, I want us to step back, though.
Are you able to go to video? Because we are live streaming.
I am trying to get my video to work. So bear with me for a second, okay? Okay, thank you. So yes, we do need to step back a little bit, because what you just touched on now, the false narrative, it didn't just start. It's been going on for a long time. Absolutely. But now we get to know that, yes, that they're just not persecuting us, on the ground. They're also doing that in the court of public opinion as well. And that's when we need to, and this is when we really need to mount, the effort to correct those false narratives, because it's been traveling for a long time. But I want us to step back, though. If we're saying that we are not, like, what we are asking for is self-determination. We're asking for a referendum. we are not secessionists. And there's the reason, and there are multiple reasons why you cannot brand us as secessionists. So if we step back in history, right? The Fulani group are not indigenous to Nigeria. They actually, their history in Nigeria is very recent, from like late 1700, when Uthman Danfodio began a jihadist war against the Hausas, in the north. And and with that jihadist war, they were able to eradicate, the majority of the people, and they replaced the leaders with Fulani, with Fulani leaders, their Fulani hegemony. Well, this belief was echoed by Ahmadu Bello a few days after Nigeria got our independence in 1960, and we have that quote. But I'm just going to summarize real quick. So, so that we can chronicle as to how we got to where we are right now, and why we are asking for that referendum for self-determination. So again, the amalgamation of the Northern and the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria in 1914 was by the British colonial rulers, which we have said, that union was supposed to end in 100 years, which was 2014. So just before Buhari began his administration in 2015, the recommendations of a constitutional conference, the CONFAB of 2014, because there was a constitutional conference, because we were supposed to renegotiate the union, right, and then produce a document that we will use to to govern ourselves, which was what led to the CONFAB, the 2014 Constitutional Conference. And Buhari's administration was supposed to implement that. But what did he do? He set the report aside. He ignored it, right? Instead, it chose to use Military Decree 24, which you've talked about, extensively. Right. Yes, yeah, it chose to use that to govern us. Why did it choose to use that? Because that specific constitution validates their grand plan to subjugate the South and the Middle Belt of Nigeria. That is exactly the story. This is the true story here, right? And so with that, Buhari, so the administration is able to, if you go back to your slide where the first one where it says, what they've stolen our assets, on equal representations in the South and the North, on equal representations of Southerners and Northerners in the legislature, through excessive state creations and local government institutions, in the North that are far more than the South. So making it impossible for the Southern, people to even be able to have a voice, in the passing of bills and laws. I mean, if they are outnumbered, right? And then this same constitution also precludes the federal character from being enforced. Now, of note is that the federal character is a tool that was put in place to ensure equity, right? But then there's also a provision in that constitution that prevents it from being enforced. So all of this, that's the reason why Buhari chose the 1999 constitution over the provisions of the over the CONFAB report. So we need to stress this. So he leaves the people no choice but to ask for self-determination. I'm going to add one more thing, and then I will just yield to others. So with that constitution, right? The constitution prevents the indigenous people from protecting themselves because of the 68, items that.
Madam, I had to interject, but we are going to go through it step by step, and we do have a section on the Constitution.
Okay, good. I'm just summing up why we're asking for self-determination, okay. And you can go in depth. But I'm just saying that it chose the Constitution for a reason. One is because the Constitution makes it gives the power over or the authority over security. Place it on the center, right? Then secondly, the arms, right? Bearing of arms and and the control of the people there also. Everything is tied into this part. Into this constitution. Then also Buhari himself, Buhari himself, we know about his biases, and we'll go into that. And so the Constitution helped to push his biases also against indigenous people, right? So all of this and many others. In fact, when people started to talk about wanting to defend themselves, Buhari's administration, and I have a video of that, he said that if you guys want peace, if the indigenous people want peace, give up your land if you don't want to die. So all these are the reasons why people are asking for self-determination. Buhari refused to implement, the Constitution or the constitutional provisions that were put forward by the people. Buhari refused to restructure. Buhari refused to deal with security. Meanwhile, at the same time, he is pardoning all the, the supposedly, repentant terrorists and putting them back into the military. So all of this leaves the people no choice but to ask for self-determination. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just gonna try to see that we go in step because we are going to be talking, again about the independence and kind of focusing on what we got. And because that's very important, because that history is not being taught to our young people. Our young people are not being taught that history. The fact that there were nations, they keep talking about one Nigeria. Okay, they keep talking about one Nigeria. And we want to say that in 1960, there was a Nigeria, but it was a union of federations. And we'll talk about it in a little bit when we'll talk about the Constitution as to what it is today. And Madupe has alluded to some of that, and why it is onerous to the people, and what are the rights of the people that they are trying to reclaim. So right now, let's talk about what happened with the military. Let's talk about what happened with the military, because 1960 was great and that was going along, but then we had the military that forcibly ends the sovereignty in 1966. Let's talk a little bit about what was taken from the people. And Donald, if you want to talk about that, that would be great. Donald, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation that we found ourselves, and when we look at the history and how we got here, like we talked about, initially talked about what the federation was supposed to be, what a federal system of government should be. But what happened? We all know what happened earlier. What the military did was that it actually took out the reality of a federal system that they're meant to be, because when those regions were eliminated and the first 12 states were created, these states that were created were not actually coming together of these people as a unit to be a part of the federation. It was an imaginary line that was created by the military. They had this purpose from day one. They knew exactly what they were doing. They took away the rights of people to have a common leader, because when you're breaking these units, these opposite regions into units, you're taking away a central leader that could speak for the people or that people could look up to. You now create several divisions and you create competitions. You have a man that is Igbo, but not in the same states, competing with the other man, also looking for a separate leader, and you find out that the people could not speak together as one. So that power was taken away by what the military did, and it continued after that. You had, after the 12 states, you had the 17 states, you had 21 states, you had several states in what we have today. They kept breaking us down, and because this was artificial, they also were able to, because of this power. When you look at all the states that were created, none of these states that were created by a democratically elected leader. All of them were created by people that live in box. So they had the authority, they had the power to do anything the way they wanted to do. They created local governments the way they deemed it fits, the way it favored people that the way they wanted it, you know, and you know, not just the 1999 Constitution, back to the 1979 Constitution. It was also, what do they call it? The allocations and everything was being shared based on the local governments, federal constituencies, and so forth. And these were manually created by these people. So what this did was that it actually took out the rights of the people and ended our sovereignty. So like Modukwe had said earlier on, what we are trying to do is just to get back that stuff. We are not, it's a very funny insinuation that we are trying to secede, but because when you look at the people saying this, are we trying to secede from the foreigners that have taken over our lands? We cannot be doing that. We are only asking for our rights to determine how we are being governed, not being governed by some foreigners that are here. Because these people have taken control of everything. They control our borders, they control our assets, they control our progress, economic future, social future, everything about us. They control everything about us. So, and because we now have the power to speak as one of people of the South to the Middle Belt, we are now asking the true indigenous people are now asking for our rights to self-determination, to take back our sovereignty. And that takes us back to why we had the constitutional force majeure itself, because what we have, like Medukwe had said, is not a constitution, but a decree that was made by these people. So it's an unfortunate situation, and these are the steps that we are gradually taking and trying to enlighten people to understand this and know why we have to seek for our rights. Thank you. No, I know I didn't really speak much, but I'm just speaking from my heart.
Right, absolutely. Stephen, if you want to add to that, go ahead. Or Modupe, go ahead. You know, we have a few points that we have on the slide as to what the effect of forcibly ended the sovereignty and how they actually did that. So either one of you can.
I will yield to Mr. Faleti, but thank you, Donald, for you know, for that. And you know, go ahead, Mr. Faleti. You can go ahead.
Everyone, please mute your lines. We are live. Everyone needs to mute their lines when you come on. And then if you want to make a comment, please raise your hands in the participant screen, and we will call you up. So Stephen, if you want to talk a little bit about the other points that we have as to what happened with the military forcibly ending sovereignty.
Sorry, please say that again, Jane.
Yeah, if you can talk a little bit more about the military forcibly ending the sovereignty. You know, Donald spoke to some of the items. We still have a few items as to what started happening, you know, from 1966, and that led all the way up to 1999. If you can speak about some of the other things that happened.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Jane. And thank you, Donald. Since 1966 up until today, we have had a cycle of one military dictatorship or the other, which is nothing but a recycling of the old guards of Fulani hegemony perpetrators, all just
and their accomplices.
I'm sorry.
And their accomplices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And their accomplices. It's important to remember that throughout this period, what we thought was a constitution was not really a constitution. We were perpetually under martial law, with a military document called Decree Number 24. In a military document, you don't have any rights. You are living under a military imposition. It wasn't until 1999 when we chose to go into what you could call a democratic system of government that the military powers that be, specifically General Abdusalami, just plastered a cover page on the military decree 24 and called it a constitution. No one should be surprised that there are no provisions in the so-called constitution that gives the indigenous members of the alliance any rights of sovereignty, because in a military rule, that is actually a proxy for indirect rule by the colonial masters, you do not have any rights. It is just a superficial appeasement, just for the sake of peace for right now, so you don't make waves that will wake up the international community as to what is going on. So it's under that clouded document that we've been living ever since 1999. It's also important to note that the president that was sworn in 1999, the retired General Olusegun Obasanjo, never read the so-called constitution. Well, he read the military decree. He was part of the military establishment, but he never cared to read the constitution because he didn't need it. He was the guy in uniform who just put on some agbada to cover it up. So not much has changed other than the plastering of the word constitution on a military document, which is the document that is being used to repress, oppress, and subjugate the indigenous citizens of the geopolitical land space called Nigeria, or to the furtherance of the Fulani agenda of making Nigeria the Fulani capital of the world. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Let's talk a little bit more about how sovereignty ended. I want to bring us back to, because we're not talking about the Constitution yet, really want to bring us back to 1966 and what happened, because the ending of our sovereignty and the ending of the regions is incredibly important. And so I want us to talk a little bit more about that, how that happened, and in the creation of states. Were those states nations? Do we still have federations in 1966? So if you want to talk about that, please, because it is important for our people to understand step by step what actually happened and when it was taken away and when it was solidified. And so what we're trying to do today. So if you can please pick that up, that would be awesome.
Yes, and that was what I wanted to, that was what I was trying to interject, after, it was a good thing that Mr. Faleti, kind of explained extensively what the 1999 Constitution, is doing to us. But even before the 1999, it was a gradual process. Like you said, in 1966, when the military struck in Nigeria, right? Of course, all of the constitutions of each region were suspended. Yeah, yes, and then martial laws were being implemented, right? Then Gowon came in, after the what is it, the other coup. So actually there was the January 1966 coup, and then there was also a retaliatory coup, to kind of undo that one, but eventually produced Gowon. In 1967, they started to create states. So we moved from regions to states, right? And that was when states and local governments, right? So then gradually, as they were doing that, if we go back in history, gradually they were allocating, making sure that they were allocating more states towards the northern part and less towards the southern part. And and that actually continued, right? Even through the Civil War, after the Civil War, that continued. And I want to say, even before 1999, right? There was the Land Use Act I think that was in 1978 or 1979. Those were some of those plans to start taking the land, but we were not paying attention, right? We were not paying attention. So all of those were gradually putting all of those gradually in place. to make sure that the agenda again, to take over the land again, from the Ahmadu Bello's code, because they're always, these have been passed on, right? From that, they should, the Ahmadu Bello's code that says that they should not allow the South to ever have control over their future. So all those were being implemented gradually. And again, even when they returned Nigeria to civilian rule back in 1980, guess what constitution? Guess where the constitution of 1980 came from? Of course, military decree as well, right? Produced that. So again, and then Buhari came in 1983, and struck and actually and sacked the Second Republic, right, in 1983.
Exactly.
And that took us again, through a long, range of
years of another reign of terror.
And then we were supposed to be returned to democratic, to democratic process. And then somebody from the South, and that's why I'm saying that, it's a plan. Somebody from the South won an election, which has been dubbed as, the most, the freest and the fairest, elections, that were held in Nigeria. I wasn't there, but then, those were the reports, right? But they refused to allow the man, to give him his mandate. So again, it tells a story. The story, everything has been building up over time. We just were not paying attention. So we didn't get here by sudden flight, right? It was a gradual, process. So I'll just leave it there, and I'll let somebody else pick it up from there.
Okay, so we're going to be moving on. But one of the things I want to really stress is that with the military coming on board, the regions, these federations, the self-governing and autonomous nations were dissolved, and we all became a melting pot of Nigeria. Then they quickly created the states, and these states divided up the regions, and as Donald talked about earlier, made it impossible for any of the regions to have a leader. And the worst thing is that these states, they're not self-governing, they are not autonomous, they had no control of their assets, they had no control of their progress, no control of the safety of their people, the progress of their people. Basically, everything that the regions had was scrapped by the military. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the 1999 Constitution. We've talked about it a little bit, right? Because this was in 1999, and we talked about the whole thing that Buhari truncated in the 80s. But in 1999, the country was buoyant. Everyone was excited about returning to civilian rule, returning to federation, returning to the nations, looking forward to a referendum that will bring a constitution and a way of governing, because we had the parliamentary way of governing. And at this point, as you're coming to civilian rule, you need to be able to determine how you're going to be governed. But Majipe, if you can please go to the Mordo video, if we can talk about the Mordo video, because we've talked a little bit about what happened with that constitution, but the Mordo video really brings it home as to what happened with that so-called Constitution of 1999. Was there a referendum? Was this a people's constitution? Or was it, as we have come to find out, just military decree 24? So let's watch that video. It's a very quick video, and then we'll talk about the things that got eliminated. So Motupet, anytime you have that. Okay, is that a no that you don't have that yet? Okay, so again, as we're waiting for that video, we can go ahead and just talk about the things that got removed from the Constitution. We can talk about that. And at this point, I will invite any of the folks that are listening to us to pitch in on the 1999 Constitution and what it has done, because you should know this. You should know this. All of our people need to know what that Constitution did. Because it is a crux of what we're talking about today. It is a crux of why we have the Constitution of force majeure. It is a crux of what we see happening, in the country today. So I'll open it up for discussion. Donald, you can go ahead and speak, obviously, some of the things that has been removed. And Motokway, if you want to flash up the slide, I'll go ahead and bring up the Modo video, and we'll play it after everyone has to talk a bit as to what's in that quote unquote Constitution of 1999, which is actually military decree 24. So Donald, if you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about that, that's fine. And anyone else, do please raise your hands so that we can call on you. So Donald, if you can kick off, and then we'll go to Shola Salako. And Shola, if you can please, when you're getting ready to come up, go to video. That would be awesome, because we are live streaming. So go ahead, Donald.
Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we like someone has mentioned, has stated in the commentaries, that we should stop calling calling it a constitution, because it's a military a decree. You know, military decrees are like in the military, it's actually orders. Like when you're giving an order to people, you decree it. You say that is how you want it. The people, whosoever is taking that orders, does not have a choice. It is what is being said that it has to be done. You know, so when we look at that decree, what it actually did is that, first of all, it lied that it was a consensus of the people to agree on what the orders gave. That's the first fraud. That's the lie, where it says that we, the people, agreed on it. We, the people, did not agree. We did not even know about it. There was no referendum that we had to vote in a yes or a no, because it actually took away self-governance, because you have people that are not they are not accountable for anything. You know, you have a so-called constitution that takes away your rights to question anything about it. It takes away that right. You cannot contest it, because in chapter 2, is it chapter 2, you have a whole lot of benefits, you know, rights that comes to you, that you need to have this, the government must give you this, you need to have right to freedom, right to basic fundamental human rights and social amenities. You know, but in chapter 1, it already said that you do not have the court does not have to listen to you when you bring this up for questioning, or you want to ask to enforce it. The court cannot listen to you, cannot enforce it. So that means the right had been taken away in chapter 1 before it was given to you in chapter 2. So it's totally a fraud. It's a slavery. That is what it has done to us. And the same constitution, or so-called constitution, also takes all the power, all the assets, and puts it in the pockets of one person. And that one person is determined by them, you know? So it's a total fraud. It's something that we should not allow to continue. So when we say that we are seeking a self-determination, it's because we want to get out of this slavery and actually recover our sovereignty that was taken away from us far back 1966, and even recently more highlighted in the so-called democracy. So it's an unfortunate situation. I don't really have much to say about it, but there's so many things about it. You see, when you look at the executive lists, you know, it totally takes away the rights of anything from the people. It's their assets. You see, because we cannot have assets in the Niger Delta and yet do not have control over it. It's totally being controlled by the people being empowered by this military decree. So it's a fraud. It's something that we have to, by all means, do away with. I think I'll just leave it there, since I'm totally not I'm not happy about the whole situation. Thinking about it. Yeah, muted, Jim.
Thank you, Donald. And you are right. It is a fraud. Sorry, guys, I was muted. Because no referendum, no constitution. Because a constitution is made by the people for the people. A military decree cannot be a constitution because the people did not make it. And so that's one of the things that's the issue with the Constitution. One, it continued to eliminate self-governance. It continued to eliminate autonomy. It separated even more. They continued to separate into more states, more local government areas. And as Madupe said earlier, with the numbers skewed to the far north. And there was a good reason for that, right? And then it continued to eliminate the constitutions of the regions and nations, the control of assets. And we'll talk about the exclusive 68-item list that really has consolidated. Because what the 1999 Constitution said, and someone can bring up the preamble, it said that we, the people, decided that we want to be a unitary Nigeria. Unitary meaning just one government. And then everything got centralized in the federal government. Now, bear in mind, none of these states are self-governing. None of the states qualify as federations, as regions or nations. So how can you have a federal republic of Nigeria when there are no nations? Because a federation is a coming together of nations. So this fake, fraudulent constitution, which is Military Decree 24, brings in one Nigeria, which the people did not have a say in. So the preamble is fraudulent. The very first thing in the Constitution is fraudulent because it talks about indivisible and indissolvable. We cannot break it up. But is that what was agreed to in 1960? Did the people agree to it in 1999? And the answer to both of that is no. And let us be very clear on this. In 1999, the Middle Belt to the South, they did raise an objection. Lawsuit was filed. They got together, and Donald, you can expand a little bit more on that as well with regards to what the movement for New Nigeria, was or No Nigeria was working on at the time, and the steps that were taken. We can go, a little bit into that because those steps were taken immediately. So let me go ahead before we continue. Let me go ahead and share that video of Ngodo, who was the Minister for Information and would have been the one responsible for putting that constitution in place. So let me go ahead and share this so that everyone can hear it at the same time, because this is quite important.
49 people selected to write a constitution, wrote a constitution. 40 people in the Supreme Military Council promulgated a constitution for us. Under General Abubakar, government in which I served, I was in executive council. I never saw the draft constitution. And I was Minister of Information. It was my responsibility to publicize it to the country. On the day of swearing in of Obasanjo, we didn't have a copy of the constitution. I didn't know who was printing it. And my ministry was supposed to pay for the printing. And Obasanjo was sworn on a constitution that had not been read by anybody. And the National Assembly could not be constituted until 4 days after he swearing in, because there was no clean copy of the Constitution. You cannot build a quicksand, and the country cannot live on falsehood.
Okay, that was an impassioned discussion by Ngodo, because he was the one that was responsible for the Constitution. And you have heard what he said. There was no people. The people did not touch that Constitution. Okay. So, Madhukwe, if you want to go ahead and share again so that we can go to the next part of this, we can talk a little bit about that 68 item list. Yeah, because in there is where we will find some of the things that have been taken from, besides the sovereignty. When we talk about, the assets and stuff like that, it's in that 68 item exclusive list. That is where that comes from. So you guys can go ahead and look at this at your leisure, because we can provide this. But in this 68 item exclusive list, you will find that number 2 is arms, ammunition, and explosives. Is that hunting the regions today? Absolutely, right? Because those states don't have any access to that. And then we have borrowing of money, and we have seen what has happened when money has been borrowed, right? How it has been divided, where it goes. We see minimal amount going to the middle belt to the south, and sometimes the south gets nothing. Okay.
Sorry, Jean. I thought you said Miss Salako was supposed to.
Yeah, she put down her hand actually. So I'll go.
She has that.
Okay. So if you can please go to video, Shala, then we can go ahead, because your hand keeps going down. So go ahead and go to video, please, and then go ahead and unmute.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You are welcome. Sorry about that. Your hand went down, so I moved on. So please, you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for this. I was expecting to be called. That's why I took my hand down. I think it's really, really good that you are making the point about that military decree, because that military decree 24 makes us homeless, stateless. It means there will never be electricity. It means we will never own our assets. Yes. It means everything that was ours is taken from us. All that is wrong in the place called Nigeria is thanks to that military decree. Now, the thing is, somebody said the point earlier is this thing is an ongoing project. Do you see? They didn't start it in 1999. They started it from before 1960, from the time when one of their leaders said they don't want to be joined with the South. They didn't start it in 1999. But where we are now—
Well, before amalgamation, actually. There's another document in 1912, yes.
Yes, you're right. And the thing, the other point I wanted to, sorry, there's 3 points I wanted to make. One is it makes us homeless, stateless, and basically it means we will always be poor. They can kill us how they like, just saw the list. They can take our assets. They can turn us, basically that decree turns us into slaves in our land. The second point I want to make is language. It's up to us, whenever they call us agitators, correct them. We're not agitators. Absolutely. We're people who want self-determination. We're nationalists. In fact, if Nigeria ever had a chance to be a nation, we would be called nationalists. Absolutely. The people who are who created the military decree 24 in a proper country would be in prison. Buhari would have been in prison. Obasanjo would have probably been in prison. I've forgotten his name. Babangida would be in prison.
Abdusalam.
Yeah,
they're all criminals. Yes.
Yeah, they're criminals. But because Nigeria is not a country, it's an economic enterprise. They don't go to prison. So the point I'm trying to make is this: we need to correct ourselves. We are not agitators. I'm not an agitator, and I'm not, what's the other words they use?
Secessionist. We are not seceding.
And it's important.
Yes, secessionists. We're not secessionists.
Yeah, we're not seceding because we never agreed to be in there. If I didn't agree to come into your house and you now carry me from the street and put me in your house and I now want to get out, how am I seceding? Do you see, we're not seceding. We are nationalists and we are entitled to say we want to decide what happens to us. It's called sovereignty. All we are doing, you're absolutely right, all we're doing is correcting the mistake of 1914. And going back to this thing, to a point, I actually don't blame the Fulanis. I blame the Southerners and the Middle Belt who either haven't read the decree or don't care one way or the other. Because people can only do to you what you allow them to do to you. And it's because all these people over the years have allowed it. That's why we are where we are. And this is why we need to keep going on and on about the decree, because it's the decree that holds us. And the other final point is this: to be honest, Nigeria is not a nation. It's not a country. From the time that you don't have a constitution, one of the hallmarks of a country is the constitution. And particularly so in a place like Nigeria. So with no constitution, with a constitutional order that has failed, you actually don't have a country. Do you see? I'm not sure if people appreciate that, and they can carry on. And this is why it's very sad with the politicians, because they don't seem to, again, I don't know whether it's ignorance or whatever it is. They don't understand. They don't have a country. And as much as it enslaves you and I and the man on the street who lives on 500 naira a day, it enslaves them. Only that their slavery the word is that they're living in a gilded cage. Do you see what I mean? But they're still in a cage. And their life is no more valuable than me who's living on the streets of Isaleko or living on the streets of Akure. Do you see? But they haven't seen that. But yeah, just the point is, we need to remember, it is not a constitution, it is a decree. And we are not secessionists. We're not secessionists, we're not agitators, we are nationalists. That's what we are. We are nationalists. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, my sister. That was perfect, like to the point. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was very good. And let's talk about slavery. So I am going to share a video, Prof. Akintoye, talking about slavery. Because when we talk about apartheid, we're talking about slavery.
The Yoruba cage war. Many students of history know that war was probably the longest in the annals of world civil wars. But it was almost exclusively within Yoruba land. Now, before I come to what you said there, the war itself, did we, as students of history, take any lesson from that in the way you're seeing us behave now?
I was actually looking at the lessons to be drawn from our history of the war and the events that followed. The fact that after the war, we became very rapidly highly educated people with university professors. Some, by the 1880s, when the war was coming to an end, some Yoruba families were already producing the third generation of university graduates. We had started in 1859, we published our first newspaper on the African continent in Abeokuta, and very rapidly other papers followed, especially in Lagos and so on. And in the 1990s, as the British or as the Europeans were sweeping over West Africa or Africa to establish colonies, we Yoruba, and they were becoming very arrogant. The Europeans were becoming very arrogant and talking about the inferiority of the black man. The father, they said the black man has never created any index of civilization and can never do so, and so on. But we Yoruba showed them that we could. And we started what we call the movement of Yoruba cultural nationalism, which was the only thing on the African continent challenging the arrogance of the white people, and so on. But unfortunately, we didn't carry that far enough. We could have. And if we had done that, we had the influence to prevent what later happened, our becoming a British colony, and our becoming part of another of a large country. We could have. We are a large nation on our own. We don't need to be part of any country.
You're referring to the Yorubas?
Yes, the Yorubas, yes. We made mistakes. We had the military power, very big military power to resist any incursions of colonialism into our territory. We commanded a lot of influence in our educated people who could have influenced the European government back in Europe. We commanded a lot of influence in our missionaries. One of them was the highest church of official in the whole of West Africa. Our clergy had a lot of influence, and then we had great traders in the interior, especially in Lagos and Ajashe, Porto Novo. Some of these merchants already had shipping lines of their own, and we had these powerful newspapers, though, that were the pillars of this movement of Yoruba cultural nationalism. We had all of that, and we yet let our land become British colony, or partly British colony, partly French colony, partly German colony. It's puzzling how we could command such enormous power in our hands, and yet let ourselves become the colony of any other country in the world. And we had the military power too. I have estimated that by 1992, when the first attempt was made to conquer the Ijebu kingdom, there were in different kingdoms and authority in the hands of different authorities in Yoruba land, over 500,000 very highly seasoned soldiers, commanded by very powerful, great commanders. We didn't pull all of that together. We didn't pull our military resources together. We didn't use our influence in the media. We didn't use the influence of our educated people. We didn't use our influence in the church circles in Europe through our clergymen, and we let our country become a colony of the British, partly the French and partly the Germans. We who are students of history, we are looking at that. What really did happen? How could the people who are so powerful and so rich and so capable simply let their country slide the way the other parts of Africa slid? That's one thing. So my question now to Yoruba people is, okay, today we are still a very large country, still the largest country, the largest people, the largest single nation in Africa, the most educated, with enormous power beyond Nigeria. In a meeting recently, I was talking and I said, we Nigerian Yorubas are about 56 million, but in this country of Brazil, we have about 54 million Brazilians. So people shut up their hands immediately. I said, no, sir, you are wrong. That's old statistics. We are more than 70 million now in Brazil. So we are in Brazil.
So I'm just going to stop this here for a minute, because there are a lot of important things that were said. Because a lot of people think that the nations in Nigeria actually started in 1960. And the reason why I wanted to play that for a little bit is for our people, our young people, to understand that these nations that we're talking about existed long before the white man came to our shores and changed things. They existed long before the Fulani came into Nigeria under Uthman Dan Fodio. All of these nations existed prior to that. And some of what he's talking about is that, you know, so they carved out, like a lot of Igbo people were carved out and put in Cameroon. This is divide and conquer. They carved out Igbo people, put them in Cameroon. So you're going to find, you know, Yoruba people all over. You find Igbo people all over, you know, and that was just how they carved out the initial union, okay, that we talked about in 1960. And then following that with the states, they put Igbo people in the middle belt. They, you know, so everyone is kind of like everywhere to make sure that they are divided. And that's why it's so important when we keep talking about unity. We must unite, because the plan is to destabilize us by saying that we are carved up into all these unnatural states, that now we are no longer relating to each other as a group of people and pretty much living as slaves in our land. So I'll let other people make some contribution to that, especially the Yorubas, about what you're hearing about what Akintoye is talking about. How could we let this happen? Let's think about Nigeria. Let's think about the education of the middle belt to the south. And let's think about what we allow to happen to us. And don't get me wrong, our forefathers had their reasons, right? See, the far north did not want independence. And you wonder why, right? They did not want independence until they were given more. They had 52, right? When we're talking about representation, they were given more representation than the South to make this happen. But the reason of our forefathers is that it's better to go ahead and start the nations than to be stymied and be under a rule where our nations do not get started. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why they went ahead to do that. Because once we had the nations, and I really want to talk about the nations, even under the military rule in 1980, Nigeria was termed as a giant of Africa. You know why? We were progressing at the same level as the Western world. And this was before oil became the big thing. We have the industry. And let's talk about Black people, because they keep talking about how Black people didn't do this or didn't do that. Egypt, before it was overrun by Arabs, was Black. Okay, let's be clear on that. North Africa was Black. When we talk about the things that happened in the Hausa kingdoms, Queen Amina, right? You know, she was Hausa, right? And we talk about what happened in the Igbo nations, etc., etc. We had a Do kingdom, right? And we were progressing at a very fast pace until 1999, when things changed dramatically.
Can I say? Well, we were progressing, I would say, until 1999, because we also had the Abacha era as well. So this was going on. Even Murtala Muhammad, what we thought that he was doing all of those, you know, to implement the agenda. But if I may go back to Professor Akintoye's you know, the clip that you just played from Babakintoye's interview, you know, what he said, that, you know, when he said that Yorubas had this, you know, like we had this 500,000, you know, worth of, you know, military, you know, personnel and stuff like, but yet we allow you know, the British or the you know, the Europeans to conquer our land. And I believe that what we, this is just my own, you know, my own belief, that because all the Yorubas at that time, you know, like we had several, you know, civil wars against the Yorubas. So we were not united in resisting the invasion by the Europeans. For example, the Ijebus resisted the Europeans for a very long time, but they were left to fight the war by themselves. So eventually, things, because at that time, Britain had had ships, warships. They were like the king of the seas back then. They had all those warships and everything. So they were able to conquer the Ijebus, but that's just an example. So the reason is that we didn't have that unity. When the Britons or the Europeans were fighting a group of the Yorubas, in fact, for example, when they fought the Benin Kingdom was way advanced, but then because they were isolated, at some point they were isolated. So it's like as they were fighting, each group or each area, we the others were watching. Just like what we're doing right now. When they, all this while, the Fulanis have been attacking, the southern Kaduna and the middle belt. And it's like we were all just sitting and watching and saying, well, it's not, they are not on our land. But now suddenly we all realize that if we're going to resist these invaders, the Fulani invaders, we all need to be doing this together. South, middle belt, all of the South, all of the middle belt need to be doing this together. And that's what is going to help us out of this predicament. And I think we're actually we are taking the steps in the right directions as it is right now. And I just think we need to, continue to do this. Just like my sister, Ms. Salako said, that this is not that this is not that we are not secessionists. We are nationalists. Those people who are lying and and putting out those false narratives, and who have made attempts to kind of subdue people through the through military and people like Buhari and the rest. They are the criminals. We are not. They are the criminals, and we need to know that. And once we know that, education is key. Knowledge is power, and power is freedom.
Let's talk a little bit. You talked about who are criminals. Do these Fulani herdsmen who are spreading terror, destroying farms, killing hundreds of thousands with Boko Haram, do they have any claim to the land that they are sacking people from and displacing people from? Let's talk about that, because there's a legality. Because, that's one of the things that, I have problems with the international community. They talk about herder-farmer conflict. These herders they don't own the land. So let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think about that when we keep talking about herder-farmer conflict? And that's the narrative that's out there.
False narrative. But I think Baba Faleti has his hand up, so yes. I'm going to let him speak, and then I'm going to make a comment on that. The false narrative about the herders-farmers clash, because that's another false one that has been out there. Right. In addition to the secessionist statement. So yes, but Baba Faleti, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Stephen. You need to unmute. You're muted. You need to unmute.
Mute.
There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say something about something you said earlier on when you echoed that the Fulanis had used divide and conquer. And I wanted to make a couple of points, because that ties in with the false narratives that they have used, that we just talked about right now, more so for the benefit of a much larger audience that we have today, so they can understand and be able to put things in perspective. The Fulanis have, albeit successfully for now, used the divide and conquer strategy to accomplish their agenda to date. And they have done so because they have used three basic tools of human needs to do that historically. They have used religion, they have used politics, and most recently, they are using economics to divide us. They came in initially to use the religion of Islam to divide us, because they use that, even though they are a pagan nomadic tribe. They came in under the guise of being Muslim brothers and got the Hausas to accommodate them. All of a sudden, they became Hausa Fulani. They were very calculating in using the indigenous tribe first to describe themselves. There are pockets of Hausa Yoruba Fulani in the south and Igbo Fulani in the east now too, but that will only be very short-lived. So they have carefully used the religion to divide us, more so that even at the beginning of this agitation for self-determination, they have unsuccessfully tried to use the same religion to divide the South by saying that it's the Christians that are fighting the Muslims. Okay. Secondly, when that has failed, they have jumped onto the politics. They say, oh, it's the APC versus the PDP, when it's in fact the same Fulani caliphate that is just recycling itself between the two parties whenever it favors them. I mean, look at between Buhari and Atiku Abubakar, they are all the same thing. When you look at all the military dictatorships, it's nothing but Fulani, except in the early times when they used the middle belters, the likes of Yakubu Gowon in those days, to continue the agenda. Now they have been using the economics to divide us. They went and started to attack our farmers in the rural areas, destroying their farms while not touching the larger cities yet. That is to come. By attacking the rural areas, the majority of the people in the cities could not understand what the North was about, so they could not pay attention. Therefore, they were dividing the southern population. While they are doing that, they were secretly transferring all the national wealth and resources and commodity goods to Aliko, by creating a natural monopoly. They are the rich from the north in the south, therefore dividing the masses. The haves, because they're well-to-do, or they think they're well-to-do, they cannot understand and appreciate the plight of the have-nots. So when we talk about divide and conquer, those are the tools that they've successfully used, so that going on and in the future, when people start to create a narrative that, oh no, it's the PDPs, oh no, it's the Christians trying to divide us, you be well informed not to buy it. And I thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you, Baba Faleti.
Yes.
Jean, I have a video, and it's very, very short. It's one of the lies that I've been told, about what is going on in Nigeria by Buhari himself. If you may, it's just like maybe a minute or so or two. May I play that real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's hear this. Oh, sorry.
Donald Trump. Let's listen in on the conversation.
Very grateful to the United States for agreeing to give us the aircraft we asked for, the spare parts. We are even more grateful for the physical presence of United States military specialists that go into our institutions in Nigeria and train them and go to the front in the northeast to see how they are performing as a result of the training given to them. So the commitment of the United States in get rid of terrorism across the world, we are first-hand experience of that, and we are very grateful for it. The problem about the cattle rearers and herders in Nigeria is a very long historical thing, but the states most concerned, they knew that the Nigerian herders never carried anything more than a stick and occasionally a machete to cut down foliage and give it to their animals.
So guys, I want to stop it there. It's because of that lie
I'm sorry, that is unbelievable.
That is the lie.
Wait. That is actually true. Why don't you play the video of the Fulani people, you know, the ones who've been in Nigeria, what they said?
Yes, and I'm going to play that. And then we can actually tie this together, because I want us to see that this is what they are doing. Absolutely. Okay, so bear with me for a second. Let me pull that video up, because I have that as well.
Okay.
Let's see.
It's unbelievable when you listen to the false narrative that's going on there. And this is at a time when we had all the headlines, and we'll show some of the headlines about this Fulani herdsmen carrying AK-47s, right? They carry these AK-47s, and here is Buhari telling President Trump that they only carry sticks. But let's listen to
it. It is.
Wanda yake cikin daji ya ta'addanci ba Allah ubangiji ya tsine ma Allah dauki rayuwa ta a wurin nan. Bahilla ce saniya aka san shi da ita sai noma. Saniya ba ta haihuwa bindiga AK-47. Bahilla ce bai da makera da zai kera bindiga AK-47. Gwamnati ke turowa har muka samu. Mu kuma wallahi dalilin da ya sa billahi lazi shekara na 7 ina makarantar allo, amma lokacin da na dawo na tsinci kaina a cikin wannan abun wallahi ina mamaki, kullum ina tunanin rayuwata saboda mahaifa na akalla a kasar dan banga da.
Good. All right, so let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Now, this was, what year did he have that? Because if you recall, that
was in 2018.
For these herdsmen that have been committing genocide in Nigeria. We saw what they've been doing in the Middle Belt. This was before Trump came in. They had AK-47s there, and Buhari is sitting there saying to Trump that the Fulani people only carry sticks and maybe an occasional machete, right? And okay, that's where they were before 2009, when they started actively killing the indigenous people, right? But then you fast forward to when Trump was there, it was already a genocide.
This was in 2018.
I know. The ICC was already investigating Nigeria for war crimes against the indigenes.
And it sat there and it lied through his teeth.
Oh my God. But
yes.
the question is, why is the Western world believing something that is obviously a lie?
Yes.
Because we had all the headlines right at that time. But anyway, let's continue and talk about, we're now going to talk about the plight of the indigenous Nigerians today, of which this is part of it, right? That's their plight. They are facing this. But let's talk about the plight of the indigenous Nigerians today. I think it's slide 7. And we're gonna start with RUGA. And Montgomery, do you have that video ready? The 2 videos that we're going to play. We're gonna play this video. This isn't a video, this is just a picture. But I don't know if you have that video, but I sent you in the chat the video that talks about changing the demography of Nigeria, because we're now talking about what's actually going on. What's happening to this indigenous? So if you look in your chat, you're going to see the link that takes you to that video that talks about the changing of the demography. And the other thing that we see after that video in 2022 was the amendments that they're making to the fraudulent.
In Katsina State,
right? They're making amendments to the fraudulent constitution to now make all these Fulanis indigenous to every state in Nigeria. That's what that amendment is about. But let's listen to how they're actually carrying this out. This is back in 2021.
I went to Kwatarakwashi. So along the Kwatarakwashi Kankara Funtua route, I saw Hausa youths blocking the road. And when I asked what is this, they say their people are being killed and the government is not doing anything. I noticed that a lot of the headsmen that I talked to, they don't speak English.
They don't speak Hausa. Because I said, Kai Mutumina, he kept quiet. I said, Mayasa why is he not talking? He kept quiet. And they say, they should stop speaking French. And they say, two French say, we. And he starts feeling comfortable. And as we continue to talk, I found some of these people are from Mali, some from Mauritania. Now, what we are saying is, are we having settlements built for imported populations? Because as I'm talking to you right now, there are no Nigerians from Kanu, from Sokoto, from Katsina, applying to be moved from their current homes into bushes somewhere else. It does not exist anywhere in this country. So we see a strategy to import populations from the sub-region and then use them to displace and alter demographics. This is not, that's why the government, when they say they're suspending, if you watch President Buhari's his way, he employs Takia. And I understand the Polaco very well. So, yes, he could say one thing because, as the gentleman rightly mentioned, it's the same Takia he uses, deception. He said first grazing reserve. The country said no. He came back again, he said cow colony. We said no. Because the only thing in this game is land. The child is Jos. I go to Jos, I see people displaced. Why are they not returned back to their homelands? Why is the government trying to now import people to resettle on that land?
Okay, we can end here. And next we want to go to Bauchi governor. He talks about RUGA is pasteurization, but watch what he says. Because this is RUGA that was not accepted. But you watch his answer when he was asked, is foreign Fulani going to be part of this? And is this happening right now? And you pay particular attention to what he said about all Fulani around Africa. Majubet, if you can go to that, that would be awesome. Because we need our people to understand what's going on. We need the international community to understand what's going on. Because it's not about secession. It's about self-determination.
1 second, please.
Yeah, go ahead. It's about our survival because we are being killed in the hundreds of millions, in the hundreds of thousands. We have displacement of our people in the millions. And oh my goodness, we have over 52% living in poverty. That's over 100 million people. This is weakening the people for an invasion by these Fulani. These Fulani, let's remember, do not originate from Nigeria. They came to Nigeria in the 18th century, which is very recent. They have no ancestral land. And yet, we're going to show you who is in charge of all the revenue areas in Nigeria, both the receiving and the spending, so that you can see what's actually going on. So, Madhupet, if you can, you just go ahead and find.
Yeah, how is that going to be private sector led? The government have not released any cover for that purpose up to this moment, but we don't know since we have not been admitted into the program. But certainly we have been working very hard to see that because our people are mostly transhumans and that we have this vision to create an economic nucleus around.
Just go back a little bit. So where he's talking about who is actually funding this, just go back a little bit.
Livestock transformation. We understand, yes, NEC decided upon it. They came to that decision. They agreed among themselves. They understand this. First of all, has your state, you're not one of the pilot states, are you?
No, we are not one of the pilots, but having seen that we are in that part of the savannah and in Nigeria, and of course we have most of the pastoralists in our state, we indicated our intention or our interest in the program because we believe some of the mistrust and suspicion surrounding the very nice program could be assuaged, and of course we will participate in a manner that will bring the best in terms of global best practice. We are engaging the Netherlands and other countries to come and help us do this in a manner that at least it will boost our economy. We have so many reserves land, and we have so many forests that are not being used. Some of them are even being used by criminals, hooligans, and charlatans, where some aspect of criminality has been provided by that forest that is called Lamebora Forest and the Yankari precincts. So outside the agitation or advocacy of the environmentalists and those that are more concerned with the fauna and flora, will be able to provide a salutary effect to the country, because we have over 3,000 square kilometers of land that is in the savannah, in a lush vegetation that can be used for this kind of program, even to serve the nation. And while we are doing it as the federal government has conceived it, we want it to be private sector driven, and we will bring those who are more familiar with it.
Okay, if you say, because I mean, everybody, we want to see that these killings end and there's peace, and then people go about their businesses peacefully. Everybody wants to see that. But when you say that you want it to be private sector led, we understand that the government is going to provide 80% of the funding, the state to provide 20%, and then provide the land.
Yeah.
How is that going to be private sector led?
The government have not released any cover for that purpose up to this moment, but we don't know, since we have not been admitted into the program. But certainly we have been working very hard to see that because our people are mostly transhumans, and that we have this vision to create an economic nucleus around livestock. And of course, with all the value chain that we can get around livestock, the blood, the horn, the skin, and of course, we will try more to cultivate that culture in our people, while at the same time bringing the Fulanis in one fold and try to arrest their traditional practice of moving from one place to the other. And that is very big, an uphill task. But I think we can communicate with them more, because to them they don't have borders from Cameroon to Nigeria.
But that's the thing, Excellency. How do we ensure that those who will be participating in this federal government largely funded program will be
They don't have borders. The Fulani don't have borders.
No, they don't.
Yeah. They're the only
Nigerians.
In terms of the funding?
No, in terms of the
operations.
Operations. You said to bring in the Fulanis together. We have Fulanis from other countries.
The issue
as well.
of misconception, I said there is a lot of mistrust and misconception with regards to the Fulani man. The Fulani man is a global or an African person. He moves from the Gambia, from Senegal, and his nationality is just a Fulani man. And as a
it beats me.
Yeah.
Jane?
Go ahead and just finish.
person, I may have my relations in the Cameroon, but they are also Fulani men. I have relations because from the maternal side, I'm a Fulani man. And that is why we want.
Okay. So no, go ahead. There's a piece where he talked about when he asked him if this is going on. And he says, oh yeah, we're doing it. This is something
to educate people. A Fulani man sees himself as a Bayelsa, as somebody coming from the Niger Delta, because he speaks the Niger Delta language, which you and I don't. And of course, we would have to just take this as part of our own heritage, something that is African, and that we cannot just close the border and say the Fulani man is just a Nigerian or this. No. In most cases, the crises are precipitated by those outside Nigeria. When there is a reprisal, it is not the Fulani man within Nigeria that causes it. It is that culture of getting revenge, which is embedded in the tradition of the Fulani man, that attracts reprisal from all over the
If I understand it, does that mean that those Fulani men who are maybe domiciled in other countries, who move around, they can come into the country and this plan will accommodate them as well?
Yes, that's what we want to do. But it has to be done through sensitization, telling them you have to buy in the project, and you use the language, the culture itself to be able to convince them, away from the mistrust where the whole system of transhumance or pastoralism is criminalized. Criminalization of pastoralism is the problem that we have with this project, and it requires people with passion who understand them and who they believe in, people like us from that part part of the country to say, yes, we have this. Because today there is no limit to the accusation that this and that has happened and it is the Fulani man who caused it. There is no tribe that is not, that you don't have this criminality in, but certainly the way and manner we do it is really exacerbating the crisis and the problems.
Will there be any form of documentation of all the people that will be,
yes, we are
within that?
Oh yes, that is going to give Nigeria the opportunity to really have the best in terms of documentation in the demographics, because as I said, the Fulani man settles anywhere, anywhere he can feed his cattle. And so if they are put in one place and they are made to understand that this is to save them and their animals.
I am going to open this up to everyone to make comments, because everyone knows how I get when I listen to this nonsense about how RUGA is pasteurization and how we have lush forests in the riverine areas. Oh yeah, well, we're talking about that. We have to bring up the T.Y. Nejima video at some point today before we end. But let me open this up to everyone. What's your reaction to bringing all Fulani around Africa?
Okay.
To be paid by the federal government 80%, state government 20%, and giving land on top of that. And he says, he has people in Cameroon too. Cameroon, Mali, Mauritania, all these Fulani people, they're all Nigerian citizens. What about the Igbos that are in Cameroon? Where is the plan for the farmers to build big farms for farmers? 80% paid by the federal government, 20% paid by the state government. Why is it only Fulani who are criminals from other countries being allowed in? So I'll open it up for you guys to, anyone that wants to talk, please.
Actually, this can
reactions to what you just
Jim,
said?
please, can you allow me to make a quick point? I promise I'll be quick.
Baba Faleti, can you bear with me for a second? I was just,
okay,
I just have this on the tip of my tongue so that I won't forget it.
All right.
Just two things. When he said it's the criminalization of pasteurization that is the problem, and I'm saying, he is actually misrepresenting, and he knows that, right?
It's a lie.
It's a lie. I mean, it's a lie. It's a gross misrepresentation of what is going on. It is not the pastoralism. We are not against that, but we are saying, what we are saying is that is the acts that comes with it, right? They come to people's lands, right? They will bring their cattle onto people's lands to consume the crops that the farmer has spent a tremendous amount of money and time to cultivate, right? That is the criminality here. It is not the pastoralism. It is the criminality of you trespassing onto somebody else's land and thinking that it is okay to do that. That's number one. Number two, him thinking that, you can bring foreigners from outside and then tell the indigenes to adjust to their way of life. That beats me, really. Because a lot of us live in foreign countries. We live in countries, that have now become our homeland, right? But then, we had to abide by their laws. We had to abide by their way, by their rules, and also assimilate to their culture. Yes. We never had. We never asked Americans to say, you know what? I am Yoruba person from West Africa. You need to learn to dress the way that I dress. You need to learn to eat the food that I eat. You need to learn to act certain way. We don't do that. It's not done anywhere, and that is the problem. And I don't understand why these people are perpetrating this lies. And I think it is. It's time that we stop them, honestly. And I will leave it there. Baba Faleti, I yield to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I wanted to make a point regarding an observation that Jane made not long ago when she noted him saying that Fulanis have no borders. And I have to bring it in for the benefit of our listening audience. I need to preface that by making a definition which will put things in perspective. I want to make a distinction between a bandit and a terrorist. A bandit commits atrocities in general out of economic necessity. A terrorist, on the other hand, commits atrocities out of an ideology. Okay, so in both empirically and in the context of a Fulani atrocity committed is being committed out of an ideology. So by calling them bandits, they're just trying to cover up their ideology. That ideology comes out of the comment that Jean noted, that a Fulani has no borders. The Fulani ideology is that the Fulani man is a global citizen. This was related to Professor Banja Kintoye by his own admission years ago, when he went to mediate a dispute between the Fulanis and the Hausas in Ile-Ife. They pulled him aside and said, oh yeah, we know that this land belongs to the Yorubas, but we also believe that Allah is the owner of the land, and wherever the Fulani man steps in belongs to him. So when you understand the ideological differences between the Fulani man and the indigenous citizen of the land, you get a better appreciation of why they are doing what they're doing, and helps us to strategically map out a way to get away from under them. So they believe, even though God has given you the land, but God is the owner of the land, and if God allows them to step on it, they have a right to acquire it. Thank you.
Right. And Stephen, that's a great point, because, you know, like a few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that the Fulani are creating terror in all of West Africa, in Ghana, right? We have seen it in Central African Republic, wherever they go, they bring terror. They're fighting for other people's land. They are lawbreakers. They're criminals. They're murderers. They are murdering rightful land owners, and the world needs to understand this. There's no such thing as herder-farmer conflict. If indeed the herder owns the land and there is a border dispute, right? That's not what we're talking about. The herder does not own this land. The owner is going about their business on their rightful ancestral or purchased land, and the Fulani herdsman comes in and kills him, destroys his farm, and takes over. Those who manage to survive are sent into just IDP camps that abysmal. It is beyond belief, and I'm going to show some of that. It is beyond belief what these IDP camps are. Okay, so what we're talking about here, herder farmer, we as the indigenous ancestral owners of the land must make sure that the world understands that these Fulani herdsmen don't have any legal or other rights to the land. They're criminals.
Well, Jean, Buhari's administration told us that if you want peace, if you want to live, give up your land. I have that. You want to see that video?
Well, let's just look at that.
No. I'm just saying in case we want to see that. But yes,
just the headline, because I do have the headline for that. You know, give up your land. You know, or for ranches or die. You know, is what he said. Right? That's what he said. So I mean, again, let's kind of bring it back to what we're talking about. Are we seceding? Is all this work that is being done legally without the carrying of arms by the indigenous people secession? What we're talking about here is that there is an invasion happening. Invasion of Fulani from around Africa into the union called Nigeria. That their objective is to take over the ancestral land of the Hausa in the far north, all the way down to the riverine areas. I'm going to please get ready T.Y. Danjumo's video. That is why that's why we're nationalists, right? That's why we're nationalists. We're saying we want our nation back. We want our self-determination back. It's a right under the UN Charter. It's a right in international law. We were a nation before the British came. We were nations before they came. We were kingdoms before they came. We were nations in 1960. And we deserve our nationhood to be preserved, just like Ukraine is fighting now for its sovereignty. That's what we are trying to do, is reclaim our sovereignty. We're not seceding. We want our sovereignty. We want the honoring of the agreement that was made in 1960 that was, that was supposed to be brought together by the Aburi Accord, but you know what happened with that. That's what this is about. So let's listen to T.Y. Danjuma, who will talk to us about what is actually going on. And
Taraba is a mini state. It's a mini Nigeria composed of various ethnic groups living together reasonably peacefully. But the peace in this state is under assault. There's an attempt at ethnic cleansing in this state, and of course in all the riverine states of Nigeria. We must resist it. We must stop it. Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude. They collude. They collude with the armed bandits that kill people, kill Nigerians. They facilitate their movements. They cover them. If you are depending on the armed forces to stop the killings, you will all die one by one. The ethnic cleansing must stop in Taraba State. It must stop in all the states of Nigeria. Otherwise, Somalia will be a child's play.
Okay, we can end here.
I ask every one of you to be alert.
This is someone that should know and would know. And we have had validation, right? We've had validation. Let's see what the International Criminal Court had to say about what's going on.
I think somebody, Mr. Femi Akishola, has his hand up.
Okay. So T.Y. Danjuma talked about what Nigeria government was doing. And in December 2020, this is what the ICC had to say. The International Criminal Court, they are investigating war crimes. It needs to be investigated because they said that there's reasonable to believe that the Nigerian armed forces have committed acts against humanity that rises to the level of war crimes. This is the government that's supposed to be protecting the people, but the only people being protected are Fulani Herdsmen, who are never prosecuted, Boko Haram bandits who are repentant, being put in the Nigerian government, being quote unquote reintegrated. How are you reintegrated foreigners into our country? Criminals. No country allows criminals unless you're, like in Afghanistan, we saw what happened there. But we see Zulum talking about 35,000 Boko Haram are repentant after he, a few months earlier, said that these same Boko Haram could not be trusted.
I think someone had their hand up.
Yeah, they can go ahead. So I just wanted to point that out. Yes. That what T.Y. Danjuma said, he's not just saying it, it has been validated by the International Criminal Court and by others as well. May Lafia has validated that. All the news that we see coming out about what the government is doing, aiding these bandits, it's in the news. We're not making this up. This is in the news. Okay, so let's see. I think the person that had their hand up put their hand down. If you can go ahead.
No, I think Mr. Adif, I'm sorry, I think Mr. Adif Folaju wants to say something, right?
Yes,
that's right. I thought I was going to go first.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, we didn't hear from you. Sorry, Mr. Femi. Sorry, I think it was.
Yeah, let's go ahead with with who has just started, and then we'll go to the next one. Please go ahead.
Okay, I have to thank everyone, especially the organizers of this program. A lot has been said, and I'm very happy that we are carrying our people along through this medium. When we look at the holistic approach of what has been going on in Nigeria, it's mind-blowing. When we look at all what has been happening, things have been said, they're all evidence-based here and there. We need to look at the roles of our leaders in the South as well. No matter how far we go, we need to think, don't we have leaders in the South? What are they doing? What's their role? I can understand the complexities of our nature in the South, but at the same time, why are they keeping move in the midst of all these issues going around? All these things are not new to me. In 2007, I had the opportunity of interviewing Sir Harold Smith, and the article was, spread all over the world. Sir Harold Smith was one of the ex-agents, a colonial master, but an agent then in Nigeria. I met him in Croydon. All what he said, all what we be enumerating since, there's this grand design, agenda that the British government, even though they don't want to leave Nigeria after independence, and this has been going on. It's a recycling of all the ideas in whatever form. You see, I appreciate earlier speakers, talking about lack of unity. We are not sensitive enough in the South. There's this great hatred and hostilities in the South. Yes, they exist and they are still existing. And even the military, the creation of state, of course, promotion, bringing an officer from another place to go and be governor in another state, just as a domineering figure and all that. So you look at all this, all the military establishments are basically all in the North. Our leaders in the South, what are they doing? It said they deliberately planned to make the Northerners to be superhuman, to be influential and superhuman. He talked about Awolowo and Azikiwe at loggerhead to make sure they don't work together. Up to today, that is one of the genesis of the problem with the Igbos and the Yorubas, because they don't get on. It's a grand design to divide us, and our press in the South. I don't mean journalists alone. Media generally, we're not sensitive. I remember in those days, any publication, the way we report issues enough is that we justify their superiority over us. We did not accept this. Oh, will not accept this, and all that. So we use everything against ourselves and everything to promote the interests of the North everywhere. I live in England for 30 years. I just came back to Nigeria and I realized, Nigeria is no more. Nigeria is no more, for God's sake. What our leaders in the South, let's keep sensitizing them. If you read the article, legendary Harold Smith speak about Nigerian hidden agenda. I interviewed him. I wrote the article. They threaten me not to come to Nigeria. They're going to kill me. They're going to do this and that. If we keep quiet, one day, of course, Nigeria is no more. I don't even believe too much in Nigeria anyway. But our people will be gone. So it's holistic approach. We are too gentle. We are too accommodating. We kick against ourselves. The Igbos and the Yoruba and other ethnic minorities in the South are not together. I believe we founded an organization sometimes in Greenwich, I remember. I said, why don't we promote ourselves, the Igbos and the Yoruba especially? I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning that tribes. Why not? Why are we saying bad things about ourselves? Why can't we be saying good things about ourselves? We have a lot to celebrate among ourselves. I don't see what Igbo will do that Yoruba will not do. I don't see what Yoruba will do that Igbo will not do. These are the best brain in Africa. And then we keep destroying ourselves, playing into the hands of these our detractors every second. So honestly, we can go on and on and on and on. The roles of our leaders in the South, what are they? Where are they? Where these issues are being planned and implemented? All these interviews, provocative interviews I've been listening to from the North. What are the challenges? Our representative in the House, what are they doing there?
Absolutely.
So many, the evidence is all over the place. They are not Nigerian. There was a time they said, oh, they're from Mali, they're from Libya. Has that given them the right to be killing us? You know? So many things, I don't even know what to say again about when it comes to issues about Nigeria, to be honest, rather than to just thank you guys, doing very well. And we'll keep sensitizing the people. Let's keep telling them. And one day, without giving up, when we have all this evidence on our side, why is it that the British and even the Western world are always interested in things that will keep us down? Somebody mentioned Ukraine. What's happening in Ukraine? Everybody's running head and skelter. Yes. The worst things that happen in Nigeria, nobody's talking.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about it. It's the same thing we are fighting for. We own the land. The Fulani said they don't own the land. There are 4 million in population. All the military installations are there. The military officers, all the posts are, they control it. If you're not delivering, we're not delivering all these promises you gave to us, why don't you leave?
Well, they're telling us that we have to leave.
Buhari said, if you are
admonishing them, they pamper them too much. They're being pampered all the time.
Yes.
You see, some of them will come say they want to see only the 10 northern governors. Some will say they want to see all the when it comes to that, when the foreigners come to meet them on sensitive issues, they exclude the South.
Absolutely.
They say they want to see only the northern governors.
Absolutely.
And our governors, because of what they want to, I don't know, they want to perpetuate themselves in power. They're not going to talk. They're not talking. For God's sake.
Yeah, that's really, that's a very point, okay? Because complicity, there's complicity within Nigeria, there's complicity outside of Nigeria, okay? Because
the Southern leader was sworn in by the Constitution that he knows nothing about, and he allows to be president on the Constitution he knows nothing about. So why are we blaming even the North most of the time? Why do we have to blame them, for God's sake? You know?
Well, sir, Mr. Adefolaju, can I
go ahead, Madobe, and then we've got somebody else that wanted to make a comment, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to move on so that we can go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Adefolaju. Actually, I watched that the video that you're referencing. So when you said that that the media in the South, these people are so, and we are not. We're educating our people. That's why we're doing this, and that's why and that's why we're saying the only other option for us right now is to, is self-determination. It's for us to be on our own because the Nigerian, the Nigerian train is far gone towards towards a port of no return, or towards a port or a point wherever the train is not going anywhere. It's not heading anywhere. In fact, it has derailed over time. So again, our southern leaders are not able to speak because of one, that the Constitution pays them a whole lot of, they're paid a whole lot of money. So that's number one. Then secondly, the same use of martial law, which is what that Constitution is, because it's martial law, has gagged our the media. So they really cannot speak. They were actually issued communiques that prevent them from reporting atrocities when Fulanis goes to people, and when the Fulanis go to people's farms to go and attack them. They actually told the mainstream media in Nigeria not to report those, right? And
Absolutely.
then and again, and they will sanction those who
okay.
So again, there are so many, they've put so many things in place. So that's why we're saying we don't have any other option but to be on our own. Referendum is the key. That's all we need to do right now.
Can I interject?
Yes.
My thing is that what brother Olafemi spoke is exactly what I had in mind. He just spoke exactly my language. Then us, the southern leaders seem to be compromised, or they are not informed enough to know what is going on, or they are just enjoying the whatever thing money or they are receiving and thinking that they are living a good life. What can we do then from the outside, going in to maybe try to educate them or to see who we can reach to and talk to? I mean, we can hold this forum. They are not in this forum. They are not hearing what we're saying. How can we take this into them so they can begin to be educated? Because to be educated is to be informed and also to liberate oneself.
Well, actually, it starts from you and I and everybody here, by sharing this and also, tapping into our contact at home. So again, we're doing the education. We also need to. So your question is, what should we do? The answer is, we need to start from everyone here. You, me, Jean, Mr. Defolaju, Baba Faleti, everybody. And basically we're sharing this, and we're also backing it up by talking to our people, back home, and letting them know, hey, this is where we are, and this is the only solution. Again, the only solution is them signing the petitions, that are out there, the Ominira Yoruba and the referendum, and so that we can stay on our own and recover out of our stolen assets. Our land is our land, and we will stay on our land. And that's the solution. The solution is self-determination on our ancestral land. And that's where I'm going. I mean, that's to me, that's like what we should be doing.
Is this video going to be posted on the YouTube?
Yes, we're actually live right now, and it's on Twitter. We also shared it on Twitter. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on YouTube. This is we're live streaming on Njenje Media, and we're also going to share the videos so that it can be on. Typically we have AY, Citizen AY with us, and it gets shared live there. But again, this is why it's important for us to provide this information. Okay, so we have this whole thing about bandits and Fulani Herdsmen and kidnappers and Boko Haram, when in fact, as Melafia said, they're all the same. So the Nigerian government wants to make the bandits terrorists, right? Who are bandits? How can you determine who's a bandit and who's a kidnapper? When in fact, the Fulani Herdsmen are in the news, right? On a daily basis. We have over 4 million in IDP camps, mainly from Fulani Herdsmen. Why are they not listed as terrorist groups? Because, Bauchi governor is Fulani, Zulum is Fulani. And Modupe, please get ready that list that shows by department in Nigeria who is heading it, right? The Fulani herdsman doesn't even get arrested. If he gets arrested, the people arresting them are the ones that are punished while they are set free. And then we go after a nondescript bandit when you have the Fulani herdsmen from Mali and Mauritania, as the president said, carrying AK-47, and yet he has not issued a law disarming them while he has disarmed all the indigenous Nigerians. You cannot even have a machete as an indigenous Nigerian. And yet the Fulanis, foreigners, are allowed to carry AK-47 unimpeded by the federal and state governments. What does that say to you? So let's move on. Again, we're talking about why the indigenous Nigerians, why they are demanding Nigeria referendum. It's not about secession. It's about self-determination. It's about reclaiming their sovereignty. And it is about their survival, because the people are being not just killed with weapons, but with poverty.
Jean, can we?
Poverty. And now you for
somebody. Yeah, I think Mr. Femi Akinshola, sorry, I know, he wanted to speak before, but I'm not sure if he still wants to speak, so that, so that we can acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Am I actually audible?
Yes, you are, but we don't see your picture.
Well, that happens when you have a little man in the house.
Okay.
Both my front and back camera is broken. Anyways, I actually just wanted to say thank you for this conversation. I mean, the conversation had been ongoing, you know, in different platforms. We still continue. We need to continue to have these conversations. And one thing I've been telling people is, no matter what your ethnicity is, you need to think about your ethnicity first. So, this is the way the world operates, and this is the way the life actually works. Even the Fulani are actually thinking Fulani first, and I think it's a wake-up call for us to, think Niger Delta first, think Yoruba first, think Igbo first, think Ibibio first, because if Iceland can have a population less than 1 million, I see no reason why the Yoruba people should be called a tribe, So there's been a lot of miseducation going on, and I really do believe that thanks to platforms like this and other platforms that are doing a wonderful job, I think the Nigerian people would understand that the 2023 election is a fraud. So the question I also wanted to ask was that, is this going to be an every weekend conversation? Or, how do we move from here? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments. And what we are doing here is making sure that our people understand what's going on and then calling them to action. And so we do this on a weekly basis. And it's very important for us to really talk about this, because this here conversation that we're having about secession is because we heard from certain quarters that in the United States, they're actually buying into this false narrative again about the indigenous nations seceding. And so we felt a need to talk about this. And no, there isn't a secession, because the court of public opinion, as Modupe said earlier, is being tarnished. The lies are being told. They've got ambassadors everywhere telling these lies. We are nations. We were nations before the British arrived in kingdoms. We were nations in 1960, clearly documented. And what we agreed to in 1960 is obviously not what we have today. So how can the US or the UK or Germany or anyone outside of the indigenous people even entertain a secessionist conversation when sovereignties of these nations have been stolen? When you have a unitary country, it's not a federation. The states are not nations. They don't have anything except to follow what the federal government says. And in the amendment to the fraudulent constitution, they now want to even drag the local government under the federal government. So everything would now be sewn up, the police, everything would now be under the federal government, essentially completing the apartheid of the indigenous people. And so this is very important that this message go around. Indigenous Nigerians must, in every station, every country, every state that you are in, you must take this message. We are not secessionists. We are nationalists. We are reclaiming our self-determination. We're reclaiming our sovereignty. We are trying to survive the invasion of this very, murdering group of people in Fulani Herdsmen, in Boko Haram, in ISIS, in ISWAP, in bandits and kidnappers, all of them Fulani. And it's not just in Nigeria. West Africa must unite. It's not just the indigenes of Nigeria that must unite. West Africa must unite. They already have 4 presidents. These are people with no land. They have 4 presidents in West Africa. And all they're doing, as you saw what Zulum was talking about, is taking, what they do is they move their people from one country to the other, change the demography, and become, get a president in there, change the constitution, and all of a sudden, it becomes Fulani land. When they don't own the land. West Africa must wake up. Just as we're waking up Nigeria, West Africa must wake up. Ghana is under attack. We saw Central African Republic. We see other countries that are under attack. And so we need to make it impossible for anybody from that region to be leading any country in West Africa. It's what needs to happen. So I'll yield for others to speak. And Modipe, we can move on.
No, what is going on is obviously the Fulanis are united, their governors, their members of assembly or however they are, but the southern leaders seem to be so fragmented and not united. And they also, I don't know if the federal force is buying them with, sorry to say this, with money. So I don't know what we can do to, I don't think we can unite them, or could they know what is going on and see the killings. Only the Benue state governor is the one that always shouts and speaks up, but the other ones just stay mute. And especially the governor of Imo State is even, praising and joining in whatever the federal government is doing. And it just, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, how can we take this education to most of our southern leaders, the one that not like the Imo State governor, but the other ones that didn't need to be educated? How can we do that?
Eugene, here's the we're like we know what the climate is and what they have done. Even the leaders, even now, for you to contest for any position, you have to go look for like millions and millions of naira. So the leaders themselves they are compromised. So I think our focus, right? Because I mean, like you're saying, we need to educate the leaders, right? What our focus right now is to educate the people, right? Because the power resides in the people. Once the people are educated, right? The leaders, I'm telling you, the leaders they won't have no choice. I'm telling you. So we need to start from the grassroots first. To me, we should continue educating the people because that's where the power is. So the leaders, leave them for now, because for right now, whatever you say is going to fall on their deaf ears, right? So I'm saying that, well, we can, but after we have educated the grassroots, because that's where the power resides. We're giving them too much credit. You know what? The leaders are supposed to be serving us. We are not supposed to be serving them. So let's put the power back into the people. I think you're muted, Jean. You're muted.
Yeah, because a few weeks ago we showed the news article showing the marriage, all the marriages, right? We see between APC and PDP. So everything that you guys are looking at, the political elite, they're eating the fat of the land. They are in cahoot with each other. They are not. Have you heard any senator, House of Rep, any of them, governor, say that they're going to cut their salaries so that the 100 million Nigerians would not starve to death? Anyone?
Thank you.
Buhari is taking
we're not going to waste our time on them.
Million to travel within Nigeria. Where does he go? How many places have you seen him go in Nigeria? 334 million in the budget. And at that 350 or 60 or whatever for him to travel overseas, which he now claims is his own personal visit that he has established prior to being president, then why do you need 300 and some million? What about the millions? Just for the clinic in Aso Rock. It's the same for the whole country. Guys, politicians don't have the interest of the masses at all. Because if they did, why are they the highest paid in the world with 100 million people? Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world. We've got to stop and think about these things. And so Monopo is right. We need to educate the masses. The masses need to understand that when the masses rise up, all of this falls apart. The Fulani herdsmen will stop. The politicians will stop. And will rise up people who actually are civil servants, not political elite, who only think about themselves and not about the child. Don't even get me started on Dangote. Supposedly the richest man in Africa, which is where they're parking all of the money, because we saw that last week. He's a national monopoly, and not for Nigerians, but for Fulani, because he's a Fulani man. All that monopoly of rice and cement and all these things, and now he's getting a refinery. He's got the wharf. Where do you think all that money is going? Why do you think that the Fulani, the jihadists are saying that they have enough money to wage a long war in Nigeria? Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Have that list?
Yes, I do.
I want us to go over that list. We'll talk about the 4 major blah, blah, blah. And then we'll move on, you know.
Also see questions on the chat, if you guys can look into it.
Yeah, you can answer some of those.
Can you see my screen? Yeah, I mean,
yes. Yeah, this one, but we also have the other one. If you recall, we have the other one that we have where we have it by ministry, revenue producing ministries.
Yeah, let me
we have that as well. But go ahead and go through this, because we can
okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so these are the list of the ministers, right? So remember that their fraudulent constitution prevents the federal character from being enforced, right? So Buhari can make lopsided, ministerial appointments. Nobody will hold him accountable because that fraudulent constitution says it's okay. So you see the reason why our only option is referendum, and that's what we're still speaking. Referendum equals self-determination. So, but let me go back to this. So Zainab Ahmed, Minister of Finance, and watch again, all the big parastatals, all the big agencies have Fulani, individuals of Fulani heritage. Zainab Ahmed, Kaduna State Minister of Finance, huge money, right? Muhammad Mahmoud, Kaduna State Minister of Environment, again. Sabo Nanonu, Kano State Minister of Agriculture and Development. Talk about farmer others flash, right? The narrative. Major General Bashir Salila Magashi, Kano State Minister of Defense. Yes, insecurity or the military, and so on and so forth. They are the ones in charge. Hadi Sirika, Sirika Katsina, Minister of Aviation. Abubakar Malami, Kebbi State, Minister of Justice. Ramatu Tijani, Kogi State, Minister of FTC. Even though, Kogi is, it's half Yoruba and some, and then half Northern, but you see who is heading, who this person from Kogi State. So they chose the Fulani from Kogi State, right? Minister of FTC. Lai Mohammed, they gave him the information and culture, right? The very not very significant, agency. Is man, right? And from Kwara State, and Kwara is part of Northwest. You see that? Northwest.
Yeah, but communication is very important, right? Because that's what is being communicated to the world.
I know it is.
Yeah,
well, absolutely. Well, yes. Then Gbemisola Saraki, we know the Sarakis are half Fulani and half Yoruba. So you see, nepotism still at work. Minister of State for Transportation. Babatunde Fashola, Lagos State Minister of Works and Housing. Yeah, talk about just put a 2G there, yeah, or put a puppet, yeah. Adeleke Mamusa, Lagos State Minister of State Health, where where the president goes to England for routine medical check, right? And you have a minister for health. Yeah. I mean, how many health institutions or health facilities that are, that are even basic, that are even up to par to what is basic in some of these countries? How many of those do we have? Zip. Muhammad H. Abdullahi, Nasarawa State Minister of State Science and Technology. Zubair Dada, Niger State Minister of State Foreign Affairs. You see them there? The false narratives can really spread, right, in the international community because they are the ones in charge. Olamilekun Adegbite, Ogun State Minister for Mines and Steel Development. Even though Dangote, let me just not even go into that. But anyway, so Olamilekun Adegbite, Ogun State Minister of Mines and Steel Development. Tayo Alasha Adura, Ondo State Minister of State Labor. Rauf Aregbesola, Minister of Interior Decoration. I just put the decoration there. It's there for decoration. Yeah. Sunday Diary of your state, Minister of Youth and Sports. Yeah, right. How many world events, sporting events, as Nigeria, excelled in the last couple of years anyway. But that's the question out there. It's a rhetorical question. Pauline Talent, Plateau State Minister of Women Affairs. Rotimi Amechi, Minister for River State Minister of Transportation. And this one recently said that, that they all are thieves, but the people are not stoning them. So you see, Eugene, you see why the power is in the people.
Yes.
The people need to be educated about their power. Yeah. That is what it is, about the powers that they have. He said it. Rotimi Amechi said it. He said that, well, you're saying politicians are thieves, but how many of them have you stoned? He said, even including him, have you stoned me? So anyway, my Garai Dinyadi, Sokoto State, Minister of Police Affairs. Salim Maman, Taraba State Minister of Power. Abubakar D. Aliyu, Yobe State Minister of State for Works and Housing. Sadia Umar Farouk, Zamfara State Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. And the big money, Minister for Petroleum is who you know who? Buhari himself. So again, we can see here that about 75% of the ministerial appointment of the ministers who are serving under Buhari's administration are from his ethnic group. Nepotism at work.
And not only that, all the areas where you have either defense, information, foreign affairs, or revenue generating, Fulani.
Yes.
And that's the one that I wanted to show, but I have to find it. I think I sent that to you last week. The one that puts what departments that the Fulanese are heading. So we're going to move on now to kind of coming into the final piece of what we're talking about today, and that is the constitutional force majeure. What is the solution to what we're talking about? We are not seceding. Okay, this picture here shows the step-by-step from the moment that 1999 Constitution, aka Military Decree 24, was put in place, the steps that the indigenous people have been taking painstakingly to bring us to 2020, when the constitutional force majeure was declared by NINAS. And what is a constitutional force majeure? Simply stated, as we said earlier, it is rejecting the 1999 Constitution as the constitution of the people, because it was not made by the people. It is calling for no more national elections under that constitution. It is calling for the federal government to work with NINAS to put in place a transition government that would lead to the referendum. And then once the ethnic nations have had their referendum, then we can see what kind of arrangement needs to exist in that union called Nigeria. And this is the legal, lawful and not a confrontational way to get to where we need to be. So we are not anarchists. We are not secessionists. We are taking a clear path that Ninas has established towards reclaiming, regaining, taking back our sovereignty that we are guaranteed under the United Nations Charter and under international laws. So we need to make sure that the world understands that self-determination is a right, not secession. Ukraine is establishing, it is establishing, and it is standing on its sovereignty. So are we. And we as a people must vigorously debunk and challenge the false narrative of the herder form of conflict and the disingenuous narrative of secession, because self-determination is a right. It is not secession. So I'll let others speak on this as to Donald, if you want to speak a little bit about kind of what's going on. And by the way, the other thing that we're fighting for too is survival. Let's be clear on that. We are fighting for our survival because we have over 400,000 have been killed, over 400,000 refugees, over 4 million displaced from their land, 9 million at the risk of death right now, 9 million. And 60% of that 9 million are children. Over 90 to over 100 million by Nigeria's own numbers, 52%. So that's over 100 million are living in poverty. Again, 60% of that number are young people. 60% of 90 million is over 50 million children that are being starved to death, with 9 million of them, and that's over 5 million at the verge of death as we speak. I'll let others chime in and then we'll be wrapping up. Donald, do you want to speak a little bit on the constitutional force majeure? Donald, are you still there? I just saw you a minute ago. Or maybe we lost him. Okay, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would just summarize that. So with with all of the information that we've been discussing, in December of 2020, the alliance of indigenous Nigerians from the South and the Middle Belt decided to come together and to address this lingering issue of the fraudulent constitution. So then, at that time, they actually came up with a 5-step process. So beginning with the constitutional force majeure, saying that we as we as indigenous people did not author or did not co-sign or agree to this document, and call the Nigerian government to come to the table so that we can address the issue, so that we can actually, talk about what is wrong and what needs to be fixed. But the Nigerian government under Buhari ignored the call. The first 90 days passed, they continue to ignore the call. So, and I'm not a legal person, but I do know that, if you don't, if you're called, if there's an accusation or there's a motion, and I'm not sure if I'm using the word, because I'm not a legal person, that is brought against you, and you refuse to answer to it, which means that your silence means that you are alluding to the fact that you're guilty. So by them not responding to that, they're actually agreeing that the Constitution is a false document and should not be the base, should not form the basis upon which we should be governed as indigenous people. So, and I, and I know you have like all the nitty-gritty details of it, but I basically just summed that up.
Yeah, that is really good, because it is based on the United Nations. The self-determination, being the right of a people to self-determination, is a cardinal principle in modern international law, commonly regarded as a jus cogens law, binding as such on the United Nations as authoritative interpretation of the Charter's norms. It states that peoples, based on respect for the principle of equal rights and fair equality of opportunity, have the right to freely choose their sovereignty and international political status with no interference. And obviously, the indigenous Nigerian nations have been interfered with. They've been placed under apartheid, under the 1999 Constitution and the military rule prior to that. And now they are facing ethnic cleansing, genocide, and terrorism to a level not seen in anywhere else in the world in recent times. And it's not just Nigeria, it is West Africa. And it is time that the international community and its complicity by pretending that they don't understand what's going on. That's why we're having this discussion. Any reasonable person with even a 5th grade education in the United States or elementary 5 in the United Kingdom can understand the concepts that we're talking about. Herders who don't own the land cannot be allowed to use herder-farmer conflict to kill the rightful owners of the land and take their land. Boko Haram cannot be repentant and using Nigerian money to be put into the same society where they're killing the indigenes. 35,000 is what Zulum says, and which is why the former lawmaker Shehu Garba asked the question, where were these 35,000 Boko Haram hiding that the government could not find them until they became repentant? We are pointing out the realities of what's going on. And this is the biggest number that they have produced in 2022. We've been seeing 1,500, 1,800, 559, while the 4 million living in the IDP camps are living in squalor, in abject squalor, forgotten by the government, while they give money to foreign Fulani under RUGA, which is all about colonization, bringing all of the Fulanese into Nigeria to take over Nigeria as their land, calling them they're the African men and they're Nigerian citizens. BS. That's absolutely baloney. That's absolutely disingenuous. It's takia, it's a lie, and no international law should stand for that nonsense. No world leader should stand for that nonsense. So we're calling the world leaders to action, to sanction this government. We're calling on the International Criminal Court to take the next steps in the investigation of the war crimes and to bring justice to those that have been killed, displaced, and sent out as refugees, and those who are dying of hunger while they are grooming repentant terrorists to terrify the world. This is the condition of the IDP camps. 60% children, so over 2 million, no access to clean water, no access to even a place to stay. You can see right here the type of places that they are living in and how they are feeding, abandoned by the Buhari government. While they are spending 80% federal, 20% state to build ranches and then give them free land in our lush forests. This is Bauchi governor, who now wants to be president. right? And he says he's going to make 20 million people millionaires. Why haven't you done that, Bauchi Governor? You how many millions do you take home a year? We know that. Why have you not been distributing it until now? You want to make 20 million, and since you're a Fulani man yourself, and all your thoughts about Fulani men, not just the ones who you have brought into Nigeria, but the ones who are in Mauritania, in Mali, in Senegal, the ones in Cameroon, because you say you have people over there. You're bringing them all together to take Nigerian land. We know the only people you want to make millionaires are Fulani, so you guys can have the money to take over the land. It is clear. You made it clear in your statement. That's where they called all the Fulani. Bala Mohammed, Bauchi Governor, issued that call to all Fulani to come and take citizenship. Now they want to take a census. Now they want to make them indigenes of the state. Indigenous people has a specific, but they want to change it to place themselves in a place where they never existed prior to the 1800s. They're changing the meaning of the word. They've changed it in the Constitution. They're wanting to change it in the Constitution for the states. And now they want to make all Fulani. So all the Yoruba need to demand that the 70 million of the Yorubas living in Brazil needs to be brought back to Nigeria, 80% paid by the federal government, 20% paid by the state, given the ranches in the lush forest too. And Igbos, don't forget, your brothers are in the Cameroon where the British sent them away from you to diminish your numbers in Nigeria. They sent them to the Cameroon. The Buhari government and Bala, whatever his name is, the Bauchi Governor, where is RUGA for the Igbos in the Cameroons, for the Yorubas in Brazil, 70 million of them? Where is their RUGA?
And Yorubas in Republic of Benin as well, and Togo.
Thank you. And in more places,
Yeah.
Because we've got Igbos everywhere. I'm just using some as an example.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying.
Brazil, let's bring them back.
Yes. Yeah.
And
next door to us.
They're paying for the Fulani. Because the reason why I'm saying that these are facts. US, senators, House of Rep, governors, these are facts. UK, you know this already. Stop the complicity already. United Nations, Antonio Guterres, what are you saying? What about the EU Council? The EU Human Rights Council, the Security Council, other world leaders. Let's end the complicity. So thank you all very much for joining us. And every Saturday, we meet to talk about this. Now, next week, we are going to tackle a very important subject. While this was very important, that's equally important. One of the things that the First World fears is what's going to happen when these nations become nations. So we're going to talk about how the world is going to benefit from the indigenous nations reclaiming their sovereignty. That's going to be an exciting topic. And we're going to talk about the indigenous people.
Jane, it looks like you lost contact.
Very difficult circumstances. So join us again next week, same time at 7 p.m. Nigeria time, 2 p.m. Eastern, to join in the conversation, because it is very important for our youth. Rise up, our youth. Answer the call of T.Y. Danjuma to rise up and resist this ethnic cleansing. Spread the word on Twitter that this is about self-determination, not secession. And the U.S. should not be selling $1 billion worth of arms to a government that is under investigation for war crimes. to a government that is allowing genocide, to a government that is arming Fulani herdsmen while disarming the indigenes. There should be no sales of arms to that country under Buhari, who is a Fulani, because the only people, the terrorists are not going to be shot. You've already seen his lie when he was speaking to Donald Trump. And as Mother said, that was just in 2018. When the Fulani herdsmen were already carrying AK-47s back in 2009, 2012, 2013. And now they have missile launchers to bring down, aircraft. So thank you all very much again.
Jim, can I ask one quick question, please?
We were calling all of the freedom people to join in on this discussion. And everyone needs to go sign the petition for referendum. And you need to share this information. You need to understand it yourself so that you'll be able to talk about it. You need to be on social media. You need to be in town halls. And you need to be the messenger to all lawmakers around the globe, because we need everyone to be an ambassador. I hear Eugene wanted to make a comment. Eugene, I'm gonna,
No, it's not a long one. It's just a short one. There's a picture you showed that's very powerful, where those people are in camps and everything. Is there a way we can package it and start? I can use it and start sharing it with someone.
I will send that out on Twitter, because we've got all those pictures. And guys, it's important for us to be on social media. I see a lot of engagement now from our people. Just really, because we make these very vibrant pictures, so it stands out, so that the world, they cannot miss it, right? They can't miss it. So we need to get these messages to our young people, but to the court of public opinion. We have to win that. So thank you all very much again, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Jane, quickly for our voters, because one of the things that Eugene said is, what should we do? And when you talked about Bala Mohammed saying that he will make 20 million people, millionaires, and you said, why is he not making them now? So the message to our people is that we need to stop the 2023 election voyage by asking these people, when they come to campaign to you, that they're going to provide education, they're going to provide this. Ask them, why are you not doing it now?
Exactly.
So I'll leave us with that.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I'm going to flash up one last thing, because this was Amechi, right? When he talked about, where is that? Where do I have that now? Give me a second. When he talked about the stoning, right?
Yeah, that one too.
Yeah, because that's very important, people. Yeah. That is very important, because he was telling the truth right there. He was definitely telling the truth right there. Okay, he was. This was back in 2013. You have stoned nobody. That is why we are stealing. Governor Amechi tells Nigeria.
Wow. Yeah, we need to put this up, really, so that our people, yes, this is a good message.
Everybody needs to understand what's going on in Nigeria. Yes. They need to understand, because everyone thinks that they can say things and then turn around. It's just like Governor Zulum versus Zulum, right? On the one hand, in 2021, at the end of 2021, he says you can't trust these repentant terrorists. Now he is taking 35,000. Exactly. Where did they come from? Guys, you've got a Marjorie in your states. Where are they hiding? They came in under COVID. Where are they today? You don't see them on your streets. They're in your forests. You've got the young men that came in, all these Fulanis that have been coming in because they left the borders open. They're in your forests. And Governor Autumn was very clear. He said, grab your bows and arrows, grab anything that you have, because under international law, when someone comes against your person to kill you, as is happening, to forcibly take your land, forcibly take your belongings, burn your homes, burn your dead, you have the right to defend yourself. The federal government has refused to, as what's his name, Melafia said. In fact, he said it's not just that they refuse to, that they're complicit in it.
It's intentional.
Yes, the ICC
intentional.
did the same thing, right? And T.Y. Danjuma has said the same thing. We've got lots of videos of other people saying the same thing. So we got to wake up. We got to unite from the Middle Belt to the South. And we're not leaving you out, our brothers, the Hausas, who are being killed. That's what we saw from that video, because they are indigenous to the land. They are the ancestral owners of the land, but the Fulani has overrun them. And we cannot allow them to overrun Nigeria and West Africa on the march that they're on currently with terror. So again, thank you all very much. And we look forward to seeing everyone next week. And we look forward to having more people join in on the conversation so that your people, our people, would gain their freedom. Everyone have a great weekend. And again, look forward to seeing you next week and every week after that. Again, this is Freedom from Nigeria, supporting all the self-determination and reclamation of sovereignty efforts of the indigenous people of Nigeria from the north to the water.